With the opening of the Project Pride, we invite you to travel together with us through cities and countries of the world to meet Kazakhstan people there, learn more about their life. We will go on a visit, we will plunge into their work, we will walk to their favorite corners of the cities they live in. But the main thing is that we set out on a journey to be inspired by their success. After all, the heroes of our program are bright and interesting people, and every story, every acquaintance is a swirl of impressions. Someone once said, "I am interested in any country which I didn't visit," and many will agree with him. But there are cities and countries on earth that are imperious and irresistible. Their constant call easily finds a response in any migration instincts of the keen travelers. But traveling is one thing, and living away from the place where you were born is completely different. Paris, which is often talked about only with aspirations and with a sinking heart, often turns out to be not so friendly and sometimes shows a difficult personality. But a beautiful lady from Kazakhstan we're going to meet in this program is not the one who is easily intimidated, and without surrendering to difficulties, she conquered the city. There is no doubt that France and gastronomy are inseparable, especially if you consider yourself a fan of sophisticated cuisine. We say Paris, we mean fine cuisine. We say fine cuisine, we mean Paris. And the lady you're going to meet in this program, Gaukhar Assion, has surpassed this craft. In France, she went to study law, but fate made a sharp turn. And now Gaukhar already conquers the hearts and taste buds of French with her cooking. She made her bet on the cuisine familiar to her since childhood, and to many of us too, and she won. Gaukhar Assion was born and raised in Almaty. In 2000, she graduated with a law degree from Al-Farabi Kazakh State University. At that time, she went to visit Europe for the first time and decided that someday she will come back to see it again. And it all turned out well. A student visa, language courses, and her long-awaited Paris. In 2006, Gaukhar meets Laurent, her future husband. 2008 becomes the year when they started their family. Gaukhar became Madame Assion. In 2009, the restaurant Chez Mademoiselle opened its doors. Gaukhar is a full-fledged host and chef of this restaurant. At first, I started out as a hostess, from greeting and seating our clients. I worked as hôte de côté. I was the one to hire girls and supervise their look, their makeup, hair, nails, and so on. Then, little by little, I became commis de salle. I cleaned the tables. And only then, 3-4 months later, when my French was better, I started to get orders and became officially a waitress. This was my first experience. However, Gaukhar was from our places, and she finally came to realize that it was time for her to open her own business. The menu consisted mainly of dishes typical for France, but Gaukhar understood that even though the food was very comfortable and familiar to French people, she might get them interested in Kazakh food too. So she decided to return to her roots. Gradually introducing dishes from cuisine she grew up with, in the menu, she anticipated how the clients will react. And it was a surprise. Soon Gaukhar noticed that people began to come to the restaurant specifically for Monty or say salad Olivier. In the menu of the restaurant Chez Mademoiselle, you will see dishes of Central Asia and the former Soviet Union. It serves beef stroganoff and potato stew, Monty and pilaf, Napoleon cake, and a salad cold-dressed herring. However, a lot of recipes needed some adaptation. For example, the dressed herring wasn't welcomed by French. Gaukhar quickly found a solution. Now she offers dressed salmon. It didn't take long for the newly updated dish to be recognized. Now, this dish is one of the most popular ones. So the girl for whom her parents forged a career as a lawyer without paying attention to the fact that their girl cooks very well, by the way, since she was 7, chose her destiny definitively and irrevocably. Funny, many Kazakhstanis, having learned that their compatriot has become the owner of the restaurant in Paris, invariably imagine her as a glamorous diva that meets the guests at the reception desk with a glass of champagne, wearing heels and an elegant dress. The reality is that the queen of the restaurant, Chez Mademoiselle, does everything herself. She cooks, kneads the dough, receives food from the suppliers, controls practically everything, which means that she does not have time for rest and even for sleep. And yet, at the restaurant and at home, greeting guests, Gaukhar Assion remains the true queen. It was at her home where our first meeting took place.
Eh bien, il y a quelqu'un? Ça doit être Aleftina.
Bonjour, madame.
Bonjour.
Здравствуйте, Aleftina.
Hello, Aleftina. Hello, Gaukhar. It's nice to finally meet you in person. Same here. I believe that I'm not the only one who wanted to meet you in person. Well, meet Gaukhar. This program will be about her. Please feel free to try out our aperitif that we prepared ourselves. Really, I guess Raphael was helping you to make it. Raphael did help. Allow me to introduce you to my family. This is my mother, Jibek. She lives with us. There are 5 of us living here. My mom, my husband, who is now at the restaurant working instead of me, and our firstborn, Raphael, and our youngest, who is playing over there. The fact that the family is the basis of the basics can be heard from almost any person, regardless of his status, success in business, social status, and social stratum. It is the family, the house, a place of power, a magical island where we are charged and become ourselves. It's not surprising that for Gaukhar, the family comes first. My family keeps me going. I don't understand people who just want to make a career and don't want to have children or get married. This is my personal opinion, but for me, personally, they are the engine. If I do not sleep for a week, I sleep for 4 hours and get tired. When I remember that I have 2 children at home, my beloved mother, my beloved husband, it means so much to me, and wings grow from somewhere and energy appears, and fatigue after 2 cups of coffee goes away. Gaukhar and Laurent are not just a couple, they are parents, business partners, and friends, like-minded people. The children of this beautiful couple embodied all the best from their parents. Gaukhar calls her mother the most important person in her life. For her, she is an embodiment of intelligence and grace. I started to cook when I was 7, and my mother always supported this desire in me. She always complimented my cooking. I would hear millions of compliments. And this desire to cook grew even stronger. Because of her and my grandmother, I became a cook. They say you sow an act, you will reap a habit. You sow the habit, you will reap a character. And you sow the character, you'll reap a fate. And the actions we take become the basis of our character and ultimately shape our destiny. A lot often depends on the parents and on what they taught us when we were children through advice or an example. I'm still in process. I can't say that I'm in search for myself. I believe that evolvement happens your entire life, but what helps me in this process is my family. What factors should merge together in order to achieve success? Of course, a lot of factors must coincide. But Our Lady is convinced that it's important to hear yourself, to understand what your soul seeks, and of course, work very hard, and then wait for a well-deserved reward, a big one. Can bishparmak and plov be popular in Paris? Is there a restaurant that offers Kazakh and Russian food that is included in the most authoritative Michelin restaurant guide? This was possible for restaurant Chez Mademoiselle and its host. And so one day, the restaurant Chez Mademoiselle, the result of Gaukhar and Laurent's work, landed in the Red Michelin Guide in one of the most influential restaurant ratings in the world. And I must say, it's quite well deserved. Many professionals of knives and ladles dream of being in the list of so-called Michelin restaurants. After receiving the coveted Michelin star, the chefs seem to move to a new level, becoming members of a special caste. And although, as Pascal Remy, former inspector of Michelin Guide, said, true talent is revealed in the struggle for Michelin for Gaukhar did not become an end in itself. The recognition of success is the result of the fact that the guests, having tasted the food from Mademoiselle, return to it again and again. When and at which table of this small institution on the Rue Coeur-et-Mer was an inspector from Michelin, we will never find out. These people always come incognito, pay their bills, and leave never giving you a slightest idea of who they are. Undoubtedly, Michelin inspector also returns to Gaukhar again and again, and he's still satisfied. After all, in 2007, Chez Mademoiselle is again on the treasured list. Bravo! You can't get a star out of nowhere. It never happens this way. No one knew about your restaurant and bam, you have a star. So that means that you're on the short list. Yes, at the moment, we are on the short list. What efforts from the restaurateur are required in order to please the guide of the Michelin? It's not falling from the sky, obviously. Of course not. First of all, you can find a variety of cuisines from different parts of the world and different types of food, starting from vegetarian to lunch bars, that means traditional and gastro restaurants. The first guide was released in 1900 by André Michelin, one of the founders of Michelin Guide. The guide was originally a list of various places that could be useful to the traveler, for example, hotels, repair shops, snack bars, paid parking lots. It was distributed free of charge and had very moderate demand. In 1920, the guide began to sell for a small fee. A rating of restaurant, according to their attractiveness, was also added. At first, a solid institution with rather high prices was marked by a star similar to a flower. However, in 1926, the rating policy changed radically, and since then, the star next to the name of the restaurant has become a symbol of an excellent cuisine. In the early 1930s, 2 more stars were added. The system did not change anymore and is literally interpreted as follows. 1 star means a very good restaurant in its category, meaning the type of cuisine. 2 stars are a great cuisine, and for the sake of this place, it makes sense to make a small digression from the route. 3 stars, a great job of the chef, it makes sense to take a separate trip here. In a gastronomic restaurant, you will get a large plate with a small amount of food on it, and it will look beautiful, but you won't be full after eating here. In a traditional restaurant, which is the most popular to this day, this is the tendency of the last several years. The restaurant culture is coming back to the traditional cuisine because people have understood to pay a lot and leave the restaurant almost hungry, it's not good. Naturally, you will not eat much of black caviar, but when we talk about radishes, or I don't know, about beets or something else, to find 13 grams of it on a plate is ridiculous. I never liked this concept. It makes me very happy that we're returning to normal, real food. Food remains one of the most joyful pleasures in many cultures. For the French, it's an integral part of enjoying life, savoring everything that makes our life better and more interesting, be it impression or gastronomic delights. But no matter how much we try and experiment, living far from home, sooner or later anyone will be pulled back to their roots. I understood that I need to do something that I know well, something that is very close to my heart. And I think it's very Kazakh of me. I wanted to show this part of my personality on plates. At first, of course, we cooked mainly French typical food. Then later, little by little, I started to include some of Kazakh dishes in our menu. On some days, you could find manti or plov on a specials menu. 5-6 months later, I started to realize that people are coming to our restaurant to eat manti and so on. I did it to try out and see if it will be popular with guests. So when I was fully confident that people really are interested in our food, even though they might have not yet guessed about it, I changed our menu the same evening. That evening, I had no French food at the restaurant. During the day, we had some French delicacies for workers to eat lunch or some clients who come for a quick bite during the day. And in the evening, we had only Russian and Kazakh food.
Ah, vous avez des racines.
I speak a little bit of Russian.
Oh, как здорово. Vous êtes peut-être
I guess you're acquainted with the Russian food.
Blanc.
Yes, I visited Russia. Is your borscht Ukrainian or Russian?
Qu'est-ce que vous avez la différence? Parce que
What is the difference?
avec le vinaigre, vous vous demandez? Il y a pas
Does it have vinegar? No, we don't add vinegar in our borscht.
Et après, passer au bœuf stroganoff.
Then I would like to recommend stroganoff. It is a Russian classic. Or manti, it's like ravioli but cooked in a Central Asian style. No, thank you. I haven't tried manti yet, and it's not a Russian food. But this is not only a Russian food restaurant. We also offer Central Asian food. I'm Kazakh myself. Okay, and you are the owner of the restaurant. Yes, and I'm the chief cook here.
Ça fait 4 ans.
Vous êtes contente, tout va bien?
Oui, tout va bien.
Je reviendrai.
It's a nice place you have here.
Votre atmosphère.
Cette année, on
This
est
year
là.
we were included in the Michelin Guide.
Fier.
J'ai connu. Autrement, je serais jamais.
That's why I'm here. I saw you there. What is the most popular dish you have on a menu?
У нас всё-таки
Of course, plov is often on Kazakh tables,
у казахстанцев очень часто на столе появляется. Но
but despite this, plov is still considered a fairly festive dish when many people gather. For 1-2 people, we do not cook it. We have manti. I think manti too because I think not every day Kazakh families cook manti at home. I have to cook everything myself because we do everything here with our own hands. Whether it would be patty cakes or dressed herring, I modify the dressed herring as a chief cook. I have a right to do so. The food must be recognizable as it is, but at the same time, I change it a little bit because French people, they not only want to eat a lot, they want to eat a quality food. You said you wanted just a little bit, and see, I couldn't control myself. I am glad. Thank you. Do you cook beshbarmak from horse meat? I cook beshbarmak from lamb, horse meat, and beef. When people order it, there are 3 meats, kazi including. I can tell a good meat because I buy it myself, I work with it myself, I choose every piece. Yesterday they sent me meat and I sent something back because I'm not lazy. I open it, I smell it, I feel it, and I want to say that the lamb here is gorgeous as well as horse meat. It's very good. The word kitchen, it's not just a word, it's something special. In the kitchen, culinary masterpieces are born. Here news and secrets are discussed. Kitchen, it's not just a place, it's a process, a mood, a philosophy. Purely for yourself, what dish would you cook? It does not matter, even if someone else has cooked it. What gives the greatest pleasure? Let it be on a perfect weekend day. The perfect day off, it's all seafood from the beginning to the end. Start with oysters, then some light salad with shrimps, and finish with a good stuffed lobster. Not over-dried. I can have seafood 2-3 days, then still I want to eat meat. Still, you can't run away from your mentality. About the ideal weekend day and not over-dried lobster. Have you trusted someone else to cook it, or should this be under your own control? Of course I would. I very much like to be served by someone. Another thing when it is successful or unsuccessful. In our restaurant, which is very popular with customers, they don't have the feeling that they just came, ate, and left. They have a feeling a little bit of this voyage, a journey. We tell them about the country, we tell them about the culture, dishes, and traditions. We have a group of motorcyclists who sometimes come to a restaurant. They feel like they just had a trip to Central Asia. Nostalgia often becomes a companion of travelers and immigrants. It's not for nothing that in all ages, poetry and songs are devoted to melancholy for home, and the sense of unity with the land of our ancestors becomes stronger precisely in our time of separation from our native places. To describe nostalgia with words is like trying to tell a blind person what light is, or for a person without hearing to describe the beauty of music. Is nostalgia familiar to Gaukhar? I have something that we have prepared. It is called a test for nostalgia. You probably heard about the Rorschach test. It's such indistinct blots, which a person is asked to determine what is depicted there, and sometimes the imagination just blows up. It seems to me that they're sufficiently recognizable. We will start from one of the simplest. What do you see here, for example? I see here Dombra. Yes, of course, Dombra. Well, this is the first thing that came up in my mind. What about here, for example? This is our traditional Kazakh headdress. I see that no matter how long you have been living in France, you still recognize things so familiar to Kazakhs. Of course, I recognize instantly. I thought there is a tree and Saukile. Yes, Saukile, and I even see mountains. Saukile in the mountains. Okay, this is a TV tower, Koktebe. Okay, let's look at the next one. This one is also a very recognizable symbol, Bayterek. This one, I don't know if there is a need to show. It's yurt. What about this? This is a Kazakh bird. Falcon. Falcon. I see that you're very much close to your roots. Absolutely. What it is? Kobus. Again, very simple. B-bars. Okay, we need to find something more difficult. Kamcha. We should have hid it better. I think that with your efforts, you would still lose time with me living in Paris. I still remain to Kazakh. I would call myself Kazakh Parisian. How do I see it in myself? Probably the first proof that I opened a restaurant which is still Kazakh. Kazakh with Russian cuisine, I combined them together. There was a sense of nostalgia, and I wanted us to have our own restaurant because there are Russian, Ukrainian, Moldovan restaurants, there are Uzbek restaurants, but there was no Kazakh. As we have already seen, there are many people from Kazakhstan in France, and Kazakhstanis come here often for business and leisure. Diplomatic delegations and sports team, cultural figures, and just travelers, they always have a chance to eat well, be greeted by a hostess, and feed their nostalgia on Rue Coeur-et-Mer. However, the basis of the Chez Mademoiselle restaurant is, of course, the Parisians who want to treat themselves with something exotic. By the way, there are many restaurants serving the dish of our region in Paris, and not one of them has not yet been marked by the Michelin Guide. So the success of our compatriot obviously is not accidental. Gaukhar, whose name means diamond, you can call Kazakh diamond with French cut. I have 10 traditional questions for you. They're simple enough, ordinary things for which each person responds in different ways. We will begin, you know, since you're a restaurateur and cook. How do you feel about the cliché that a good cook is able to cook even a shoe sole? I almost agree with that. On Monday, the whole family gathers at home. We do not work. And in the evening, for me, the question is what to cook for my family. And I just open the refrigerator and start to create something from what I could find. Then the question is not from the list. The first thing I heard when I got to French cuisine in a restaurant, in a good kitchen, nothing is thrown away and nothing disappears. Nothing goes to waste, it's true. How do you feel about an opinion that playing live music next to the table is an insult? An insult to the cook because it interferes with enjoying his masterpieces, an insult to a musician who while performing must bear the sound of people eating. What do you think about it? I would not want to have some musician playing near me at the moment when I serve and present the dish. But this is my moment of glory, as they say. I don't want to share it with anyone. The same thing I wish the musicians who play great aria or a singer who sing great. I don't want us to be at the peak at the same time. So everyone should have his own moment of glory. Yes, absolutely true. What would you do if you caught a goldfish? Oh, I will have such a banal answer. I will disappoint probably people, and you first of all. In fact, my wish is to have my family with me and for no one, none of my beloved ones, to be ill. I thank God and heaven for it. What is your favorite day of the week? Monday. It's the most unloved day of the week for everyone, and since our restaurant is closed on Monday, well, of course, we devote the first half of the day to the restaurant, even in the afternoon sometimes. But this is the only day in the week when we have dinner together. What is your favorite hour in the day? I love morning. I love lunch, afternoon, and dinner. I do what I love, my family is with me, I'm going to work actually with pleasure. Do you have a personality trait that you're especially proud of and not afraid to admit? Hardworking nature. In that case, do you have a trait that, on the contrary, embarrasses you? Quick temper. For what, you don't have enough time. For myself. You said that if you had 3 hours free, you would still refuse to hold them in the salon. I would spend them with my family. The most significant gift in your life that you have received. The most significant gift in my life is my children, my husband, who stands my temper and balances me. What do you think your guests are living with? What do they get from you besides eating delicious food? First of all, they understand that there are people who sincerely love their work and work not only for money. But when there is awareness, when people pay the bill in your restaurant, they do it without reluctance, but with the phrase, "we will come back," this is perceived completely differently. I think they leave really very satisfied. Well, let it always be this way. Like all the guests of Chez Mademoiselle, we left content, satisfied, and happy. Food that is familiar to us since childhood with a touch of French elegance, sincere conversation, warm acquaintance, and a sense of pride for Gaukhar. This was the visit to Paris. The news that she was again included in the Michelin list came later when we were already at home. Although for Gaukhar Assion, the Michelin stars means not so much as happy guests and a happy family. I sincerely wish her to get her star and hold it close and never lose it. Well, we need to go on. New reasons for pride are waiting for us. I'm Aleftina Madiarova. See you next time on Kazakh TV.